In Laboratory Reddit, today's story is...
My wife and her narcissistic friend falsified evidence to destroy an innocent man. 7 months later, instant karma left them with nothing. When I met Serena, my wife, I was convinced that she was a person of solid principles. During our 7 years together, 4 of them married, I never had any reason to question her ethics. She always came across as someone reasonable and logical. I never imagined that the day would come when I would see her defending something so obviously wrong. But now, seeing how she supports Elisa, her best friend, a woman who not only cheated on her ex, but also framed him by fabricating false evidence, I realized that maybe I don't really know the person I married. And I don't think I can ignore this reality any longer. Elisa and Jordan were together for 5 years. On social media, they projected the image of the perfect couple. However, anyone who spent enough time with them knew the truth behind that facade. Elisa absolutely controlled every aspect of their relationship. Jordan could hardly make a decision without first getting her approval. She chose his clothes, constantly criticized his friends, and had even established a strict schedule for how much time he could spend with his own family. I never liked Elisa, while I had some regard for Jordan. She has always had that particular ability to distort reality in her favor. But since Serena and Elisa have been best friends since college, I simply tolerated her for the sake of my marriage. Last year, Elisa accused Jordan of being unfaithful to her. It wasn't just an accusation. She took it to the extreme. She fabricated text messages, manipulated call logs, and even created fake accounts to make it look like Jordan was having an affair. And of course, she cried her eyes out whenever she could, especially when she came to talk about her relationship with Serena. And people believed her completely. That's her particular skill. Jordan lost everything. His friends turned their backs on him, even some of his relatives began to distance themselves, and his reputation was completely destroyed. Even Serena, who had known Jordan for years, decided to support Elisa unconditionally, without questioning her for a moment. That's how close their friendship is. At the time, I didn't know that the evidence was false, so I decided not to get involved. I didn't have a particularly close relationship with Jordan, and he never told me that Elisa's accusations were false. But a few months ago, I accidentally discovered the truth about what happened. Elisa was at our house, drinking wine with Serena, openly laughing at how easy it had been to falsify all the evidence. She shamelessly admitted that she had framed Jordan, confessing that she had never caught him being unfaithful. She even bragged about how she had covered her tracks, using a disposable phone, faking conversations, and convincing a friend to pose as the other woman to make it all look convincing. She was proud of what she had done. And Serena, to my utter dismay, was laughing with her. She showed no surprise or discomfort, as if she had been in on it all along. She didn't even seem slightly concerned, which I would consider to be a normal reaction when a friend confesses something so serious to you. Instead, she justified it by saying, "Sometimes you have to do what you have to do." My wife's moral compass was not only off, it wasn't pointing south instead of north. It was pointing straight down, into hell itself. I couldn't keep quiet about what I had discovered, so I decided to talk to Serena about it. My biggest concern was understanding how she could be so calm, knowing that our friend was falsely accusing an innocent man and destroying his life completely. And do you know what she replied? That it didn't matter, because according to her, Jordan hadn't been a good boyfriend anyway. That Elisa simply needed a way out of that relationship, and that this was the cleanest way to achieve it. That men constantly do worse things to women. "Why does this bother you so much?" she asked me, as if I were exaggerating. Not only did I not recognize the woman in front of me, but she also inspired fear in me. If she is capable of justifying something like that, what could she do to me if I ever fall on her bad side? Later, I discovered that Elisa had gone even further. Not only had she ruined Jordan's reputation, she had also involved the legal system. She applied for a restraining order claiming that Jordan was stalking her. She presented fake messages as evidence, making him look like a dangerous stalker. As a result, Jordan faced several serious legal problems. I began to investigate Elisa's actions more thoroughly. Serena never told me the details directly, but she was careless. One night she left her laptop open, and I found more evidence, which I carefully kept. Until that moment, it was all my word against theirs, as I only had things I had heard without tangible evidence. I confronted Serena again, hoping that this time she would react appropriately, that she would be horrified, that she would say we should do something about it. Instead, she became enraged. She told me it was none of my business, that Surely Elisa had valid reasons for acting the way she did, because Jordan had probably done something terrible enough to deserve it. I don't care what she thinks anymore, I have the evidence. I can contact Jordan, show him everything, and help him clear his name. But if I do, I'm sure my marriage will be over. Serena will never forgive me for going against her best friend. But I don't care what happens at this point, because at the end of the day, which is worse? Losing my marriage to a woman who considers this kind of behavior acceptable? Or remaining silent while an innocent man's life is destroyed? I already know the answer, although it doesn't make marrying this kind of person any less painful. Issue 1. I want to respond to some of the questions and concerns expressed in the comments and clarify certain points. Some asked why I didn't go to Jordan immediately. I fully understand why they think that, and I really regret not having done so before. However, at that time I did not have enough evidence to help him effectively. Jordan, more than anyone else, knows perfectly well that everything is false. But without the evidence I found on Serena's computer, there was little he could do to defend himself. Otherwise, he would have already acted on his own. Others questioned why it wasn't detected that the evidence was falsified. The truth is that I wasn't very involved in this matter. Elisa is Serena's friend, not mine, and during this time, I have preferred to stay out of her personal problems. Some also suggested that I should go directly to the police. I'm not sure if it's me who should take that step. I think it's something Jordan would have to do with the evidence I provide him. But if it was necessary for me to do something additional, I definitely would. This situation is wrong on so many levels that I can't just sit back and do nothing. I have read comments suggesting that my loyalty should be with my wife, but honestly, I question the loyalty my wife has towards me. I am also aware of the risk of becoming the next victim of Serena and Alyssa, but the alternative of not saying anything out of fear seems even worse to me. At least for me, of course. I'm sorry if some people expected me to take another path, like simply keeping quiet, but that's not in my nature. Update 1. As you know, I decided to help Jordan, but I've been thinking about the need to be extremely careful. I've had to proceed calmly and discreetly. At home, to Serena, I appear to have lost interest in this matter. I firmly believe that the best defense is a good offense, so if they try anything against me, it will be after Jordan exposes the truth and ruins their credibility. That way, if I become their next target, few people will believe them. I approached Jordan under the pretext of catching up. We met in a cafe in a neighboring town, far enough away to avoid unexpected encounters. Seeing him was more shocking than I had anticipated. I would describe Jordan as a living corpse when we met. I expected him to be affected by his situation, but the reality was truly devastating. He told me that Elisa's lies had done much more than just damage his reputation. His life was practically destroyed. Due to the restraining order, he lost an important job opportunity. A company he had applied to conducted a background check, saw his legal problems, and immediately ruled him out. He is currently unemployed, and his savings are almost exhausted. In addition, the social isolation has been especially devastating. We all go through difficult times in life, but having people to lean on makes a big difference. This was not the case for Jordan. Some of his closest friends believed Elisa's version of events and abandoned him completely. Even members of his own family have kept their distance, not knowing what to believe. Seeing him in that state, my only wish was to ease his suffering and help him get his life back. I told him everything, from what I heard that first time, how they had both laughed at the situation, and how I had found evidence in the conversations between my wife and her friend. At first, Jordan could hardly believe it, but finally he had what he needed to defend himself. The problem is that the false evidence presented publicly was more convincing than any explanation Jordan could offer. As Elisa filed an official police report, her lies have crossed the line into a crime punishable by law. It is no longer just a matter of clearing her name. Elisa will face serious legal consequences. And I don't know if my wife could face them too. I'm not sure what degree of responsibility she would have for concealing evidence or conspiring with her friend. I will update again when there are more developments in the case. Update 2, Update 1. Many want to know how things are going at home these days. For now, I have been pretending, as I mentioned to you earlier, pretending that everything with Serena is perfectly fine. I haven't brought the subject up again, as if I agreed that Elisa's actions were justified. She has asked me about it a couple of times, perhaps hoping I'd fall into some trap, but I've responded as if I no longer cared about the matter. I continue to smile at her, have dinner with her, talk about trivial matters, doing everything possible to maintain the illusion that I'm not planning my exit. I have never felt so emotionally disconnected from her. It is as if I no longer know who she really is. At first, I thought it was all the stress generated by the situation with Elisa, that maybe Serena would come to her senses and understand the wrongness of her actions. But this is not just a passing phase. She sleeps with a clear conscience after everything that has happened. I have started planning how to end my marriage. I have already started conversations with some friends who have been through divorces, because the process is much more complex on a logistical and bureaucratic level than one might imagine. I have already processed the emotional aspect during these weeks. The grieving is done. I have made the decision to leave, and now I am just sorting out the practical details. Update 2. I'm back with more news. I have a lot to tell about everything that has happened recently. I knew it wouldn't be an easy situation to handle, and I was aware of what I was getting myself into by getting involved. To begin with, Jordan's lawyer wasted no time and was enthusiastic about all the evidence I provided. He acted quickly, and they managed to obtain a court order to access Elisa's phone and computer records. My evidence didn't turn out to be as crucial as I initially thought, but it was enough to request those court orders, so it served its purpose. There they found the exact records of her forgeries, all clearly documented. The messages that Jordan had supposedly sent her, the same ones he used for his complaint, were actually created from her own device, not his. The threatening emails she claimed to have received from Jordan were sent from an address previously registered at her workplace. Seeing such a despicable person get his just desserts gives me deep satisfaction. Jordan's lawyer presented all this information directly to the authorities to turn the situation around. Now Elisa is facing charges of falsifying evidence and filing a false police report. What worries me most about Jordan, with whom I now keep in regular contact, is whether this will be enough to restore his public image. These false accusations can destroy a reputation in seconds, but rebuilding it takes a lot of time and effort. I've seen it happen many times. But now we come to Serena's reaction when she discovered my involvement in the case. This is what affects me the most personally. She completely lost control. She called me at work shouting, accusing me of being a traitor. She told me that I had no right to intervene and that I had betrayed her by taking Jordan's side, arguing that this could ruin Elisa's life. Curiously, Elisa's life seemed important to her, but Jordan's or any other innocent person's not so much. I replied that if Elisa's life was ruined, it would be okay, because if anyone deserved to have their life fall apart, it was precisely her. Serena countered by saying that this was the problem with men, that we prefer to support each other, even above our own wives. She reminded me that we had pronounced our marriage vows, but that I had decided to break them by betraying the woman I swore to protect for a man who wasn't even my close friend. The emotional and value gap between us was huge. It had been growing since I found out about everything, and she justified it, but now it had become an unbridgeable chasm. Serena chose a side, and I wasn't on it. I even think that side was completely opposed to mine. And I'm not talking about sides of women against men, but of people with certain ethics and morals versus those who lack them. So I told her clearly that I wanted to separate. That took her by surprise. She was furious, but now she was incredulous. Her reaction could be described as a mixture of pain and intense anger. She started to cry, claiming that she was exaggerating, that nothing had to change between us because this was just an argument. But this was not a simple argument about an impulse purchase. One of us was defending an innocent person, while the other supported a criminal. When I raised this with her in similar terms, she replied, "Yes, you the criminal and me the innocent person." Serena flatly refused to leave the house, so I packed my belongings and temporarily moved in with a friend while I figured out my next steps. There was no point in arguing with her anymore. She was completely beside herself. I don't think that even if I had acknowledged her mistake at the time, it would have changed anything. It would have been too late, and I wouldn't have been able to trust her sincerity. But continuing to defend her friend was simply intolerable. So I contacted a lawyer who specializes in divorce. On the other hand, Jordan decided to sue Elisa for defamation and emotional damage, a case that seems to have a high chance of success, and I sincerely hope she succeeds. If there are no consequences for this type of action, they will never stop happening. In addition, Jordan has lost a considerable amount of money from job opportunities she was unable to pursue and other expenses arising from the problems caused by this situation. It would only be fair that she recoup at least some of those losses, if not more. This case is not a minor matter and will not be a simple inconvenience for Elisa. She could be financially ruined, exactly what Jordan has had to suffer. Jordan believes this is the right course of action and is surprisingly calm. He firmly believes that sooner or later, justice will prevail. I don't know how Elisa is coping with the whole situation, but knowing her, I doubt very much that she is calm and focused, unless she has resorted to some kind of powerful sedative. As for Serena, she is not coping well either, although she does not show the same level of despair as her friend. When I officially filed for divorce, she was completely devastated. She thought it would be a temporary separation of a few days or weeks, not the definitive end of our marriage. Nobody informed her that our marriage was over the moment she decided to back Elisa. If she wanted a marriage where her partner accepted false accusations, she should have married someone of questionable morals. He begged me to reconsider repeatedly. He tried to justify everything once again, claiming that Elisa was his best friend and that not supporting her would mean losing their friendship. I have absolutely no regrets about my decisions. In fact, I feel more at peace than I have in months. If Serena had shown even the slightest bit of remorse, especially the first time we talked about the subject, maybe things would have been different. But she never did, not even now. As for possible legal consequences, I don't think she faces many. She has mainly been Elisa's confidant, and so far there doesn't seem to be much against her. In any case, Jordan knows that I don't mind if she decides to sue her too, or involve her in the case against her friend. From my perspective, if her energy is put into defending Elisa, she should do so in a court of law too. That's where true friendship is shown, not just in armchair conversations where they criticize other people. I will continue to share updates when I have more relevant information. Update 3. Several months have passed since everything fell apart, and I am deeply glad that I took the right path. For those who argued that I should fight to save my marriage, I guess they must be trapped in extremely toxic relationships. I bear them no ill will despite their comments and offer them some sincere advice. Leave that marriage, it's not worth the suffering. Jordan's lawsuit against Elisa ran its course and proved devastating for her. The court finally delivered justice, putting each one in their place, Jordan as the innocent victim, and Elisa as the criminal she really is. She was ordered to pay a considerable sum in damages, as well as facing criminal charges for filing false reports with the authorities. For Jordan, the financial compensation must be significant, but I believe that the criminal charges represent a significant step forward in reducing this type of false reporting, or at least for the judicial system to take more seriously the analysis of the complaints filed. Elisa now has a criminal record that will be with her for the rest of her life. Job opportunities, social reputation, the ability to manipulate and control people, all of that has vanished. On the positive side, I have noticed a substantial improvement in Jordan's reputation. I had my doubts about whether she could fully recover, but she has improved considerably. You could say that Jordan and I have become friends, as we have kept in frequent contact throughout this process. Knowing the facts firsthand has shown me a completely different person from the one I initially imagined. This makes me reflect on the profound damage a toxic person can cause in a relationship. But the biggest surprise was what happened to Serena. During the legal process, Elisa's text messages came to light in court, including those in which she openly bragged to Serena about having falsified the evidence and set Jordan up. It became clear that Serena knew the whole truth from the beginning, or at least soon after, and yet she chose to remain silent. She not only ignored the truth, but actively supported it, feeding the lies and believing she could play both sides without consequences. But when the truth came out, there was no way to escape. Jordan's legal team did not hesitate to subpoena Serena as a witness. She had no choice but to testify under oath. And when she was confronted with irrefutable evidence, everything became extremely complicated for her. There was no possible way out. She had to admit that she knew the truth, and yet she still decided to support Elisa. That moment destroyed any possibility of her presenting herself as a victim. Her loyalty to Elisa might have seemed admirable to her, but to everyone else, especially Jordan, it was an unforgivable betrayal. And betrayal always has a price. Sooner or later, it has to be paid. And although I hadn't anticipated it, the consequences have been surprisingly positive for me too. I didn't even have to fight for the divorce. As soon as Serena's involvement became public, her own lawyer advised her to settle the case quickly, before I could take legal action against her for her possible involvement in this whole conspiracy. She ended up accepting all my conditions: no legal battles, no attempts to keep my assets, no complications. The divorce was finalized in record time compared to the average, which was an added bonus for me. I don't understand how he could consider that a true friendship if he still sees it that way, since a genuine friendship does not destroy your life with its toxicity. His friendship has also earned him a criminal record and the obligation to pay Jordan financial compensation. Elisa also lost everything in the social sphere, which I believe has contributed significantly to restoring Jordan's reputation. Everyone began to distance themselves from Elisa as if she were carrying a contagious disease. On the other hand, Jordan is progressively rebuilding his life. With the restraining order lifted and his name cleared, he managed to get a new job. I know he is not willing to forgive his former friends and family who blindly believed Elisa's version of events, but at least he has me as a friend now. He expressed his deep gratitude to me, confessing that if I had not intervened, he does not know where he would be right now. He might not even be alive. I have absolutely no regrets about anything I did to help him. I don't miss my old life, and I have moved on without looking back. I will not allow my life to be defined by this experience. And apparently, I am not the only one who has moved on. As many people, friends in common, his family, and even mine, have distanced themselves from him. It seems that I am not the only one who considers his actions to have been deeply wrong and immoral. I don't know if there will be any more updates on this story, but if there aren't, I'll say goodbye. And if there are, an additional greeting never hurts. Update 4. Who would have imagined it? I have another update to share, and I think you'll want to hear it. For those of you concerned about my well-being or Jordan's, and not just interested in seeing Elisa or Serena suffer, this section is especially for you. Everyone else can continue reading later, if they wish. My life is going extraordinarily well. I have not suffered the revenge of those two women. I am not naive. They have surely planned various ways of harming me, but with a reputation so damaged that it would embarrass even a professional con man, I doubt they can do much against me. I feel completely protected against any attempt at sabotage they might try. Jordan shares that same feeling of security, with the difference that he does so from the comfort of the house he bought without needing a mortgage, thanks to the money he obtained from both Elisa and Serena. He invested the almost $300,000 wisely, and that man is currently brimming with happiness. When we remember our first meeting in that cafe and how he looked then, he really seems like a completely different person. Even he himself acknowledges that he left that meeting feeling much more optimistic and refreshed. I jokingly asked him if this new and improved Jordan would remember my next birthday, and he just laughed. I'm not sure if it was a laugh that means keep dreaming, or I don't want to ruin the surprise. At least he knows full well, because I've mentioned it to him countless times, that I would love to receive fishing gear. Now let's talk about Serena, and by extension, Elisa too. Not only did my ex-wife have to pay approximately $20,000 as part of the compensation that Jordan received, but Elisa is returning the favor with the same coin. I don't know the exact reason, but I can guess that Elisa has grown tired of Serena just as she did with Jordan. And she is not the kind of person who simply gets bored and moves on. Before doing so, she needs to completely destroy the life of the person who was once close to her. She did it with Jordan because, at the time, he had started to consider the possibility of separating. And that was something Elisa couldn't tolerate. If he left, she would destroy his life. And she did just that, until her own life ended up in an even worse situation. And now she is applying the same strategy with Serena. She has been posting various content about her on social media. At least she seems to have learned not to involve the legal system, probably because they are false accusations, as I have not heard anything about formal complaints. I have only seen photographs of Serena allegedly shoplifting, accompanied by messages where Elisa claims that she cannot be friends with people like her. Frankly, Serena brought it on herself. You associate with scorpions and criminals and expect to wake up peacefully with no consequences? Now I should show her unconditional support, shouldn't I? She's her best friend and should back up any accusations Elisa makes, even if it's against her. I'm not going to say goodbye again, because you already have my previous greeting. If you want a goodbye, you can reread the previous one. As for me, I think this will definitely be my last update on the subject, especially if I receive that fishing equipment I want so much, because then I will have very little time available to be writing on Reddit.